everybody. In this video, we're going to talk about the difference between connected graphs and disconnected graphs. So take 3 deep breaths and let's make this math easy. All right, so the word connected is a word we use to describe certain types of graphs that meet a specific condition. And that condition is that there's a path between every pair of vertices. So for example, in this graph, I could think of any pair of vertices, and because there exists a path between them, that means that this graph is connected. So let's say, for example, that I chose the red vertex and the blue vertex to be the pair of vertices. Well, there exists a path between them because I can get from the red vertex to the blue vertex by following along the edges. And regardless of what pair of vertices I chose, so maybe I might choose the green and purple vertex, there is a path between every single pair of vertices, and so that means this graph is connected. And then a graph is disconnected if any pair of vertices does not have a path between them. So let's say, for example, that this graph also had maybe an extra vertex or two over here, and they were connected like this. If this was the graph we were working with, it would be a disconnected graph because you can't get from, say, like the red vertex to this vertex. There is no way to draw a path between them. And so that would mean that the graph would be disconnected. So when you're trying to determine whether a graph is connected or disconnected, you want to look and see if there's any possible pair of vertices that you could choose that would not have a path between them. So in this graph, it might at first glance look like it's connected because you're like, oh, like all of the edges and vertices are like overlapping each other. It looks like it's connected. But it actually is disconnected because let's say that I maybe start with this vertex. Well, I can get from that vertex to this one, or 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 this. And essentially, this subgraph that I've outlined in blue is connected to each other. However, it is not connected to this part of the graph, because it's impossible to get from the blue part of the graph that I've highlighted to the red part by following a path. Because even though the way that this has been drawn, it looks like these are overlapping here, there is no vertex here. And so that means that you can't get from the blue part to the red part. Because remember, it doesn't matter how the vertices are arranged. So if I took these red vertices, I could rearrange them and maybe put them like over here. And if I drew the graph that way and I rearranged where the vertices were located, that would make it really obvious that it's disconnected because you couldn't get from these red vertices to the blue ones. And so this would be an example of a disconnected graph because there's two parts to the graph that you can't really get between. And so these different parts of the graph are called connected components. So like all of the red vertices are connected to each other and all of the blue vertices are connected, but the graph as a whole is not a connected graph. So it would be disconnected. So why don't you guys pause this video and determine whether or not this graph is connected or disconnected, and then restart it to see what the correct answer is. Okay, so this is a connected graph because if I start at any one of the vertices, I can get to all of the other vertices from that vertex. So like if I kind of like highlight all the different pathways I could take, the entire graph is all connected together. And so this would be an example of a connected graph. So let's do that again. Pause the video and determine whether or not this graph is connected or disconnected, and then restart the video to see the answer. All right, so on this one, this is a disconnected graph because let's say I start at this vertex here. I can get to all of these vertices right here. So we've got a big portion of the graph is all connected to each other. However, it's impossible to get to this vertex or to get to this vertex from any of the blue vertices by going through a path. And so that means that this would be a disconnected graph, and it basically has 3 connected components. So you've got the blue connected component where everything in the blue part of the graph, you can get a path between any of the vertices, but you can't get to the red component or to the yellow component. So that's the definition of what connected and disconnected means. A connected graph means that any pair of vertices that you choose in the graph will always have a path between them. And disconnected means that there are some of the pairs of vertices that you could not get to by going through a path. So that's it for this video, and I hope that you guys have a good day.